Welcome to PlotLines, where I'll use my years of experience in real estate communications to uncover the real stories behind real estate. I'm Britni. Join me as I invite guests to break down the headlines in the real estate market. All right. Welcome back, everyone, to PlotLines. Today, I'm thrilled to have Peter Choi, the Principal of Design at HOK. Peter, thanks so much for joining me today.
Well, thank you, Brittany. Loved being here and nice meeting you as well.
Yeah, you as well. All right, well, let's dive in. Tell me a little bit about yourself, your background, and the work you're doing at HOK.
Okay. So as you said, I'm a design principal in San Francisco office. Um, my career is probably a little different than the rest, and it actually points to what I really love about architecture, and that we really are as grounded as you can be, or as international as you can be. So my career started in Boston, but largely in New York City. And then I actually moved to Seoul, South Korea for about almost 20 years,
Wow,
where I
okay.
practiced with a Korean firm, but with a lot of international clients, and made my way back to the US and San Francisco specifically 4 years ago. And even in San Francisco, I'm continuing to do work beyond San Francisco and California and the US.
Wow, amazing. Okay, so there's a lot for us to dive into, just given the breadth of your footprint. That's amazing. So tell me what your focus is at HOK now, or what the firm as a whole is centered around.
Well, the firm as a whole, we're based on being a multidisciplinary firm, which is really
Hmm.
where the genesis of the firm started in 1955 in St. Louis.
Okay.
I mean, the idea of a multidisciplinary corporate firm really did start with Helmut Obata and Kassabaum, and the idea of having multiple locations, multiple disciplines, and having a partnership in that way. And that is now obviously a typology copied by a lot of our peer competitors and colleagues in the industry. What we do in San Francisco office specifically, we do a lot of aviation work, healthcare work,
Okay. Very
um,
cool.
academic work. And what I do as an architect there, I actually plug into HOK firm wide, just in terms of the work that I've been doing the last few years. And so a lot of my work has been both national and international, ranging from aviation work to academic work to commercial work and mixed use. The last one being in South Korea, and aviation work right now currently in the US.
Hmm. I don't think I've had anyone on that has spoken about aviation yet. That's really interesting. Yeah, tell me a little bit more about that.
Well, what's nice about the that sector is it's very healthy right now in the country.
Hmm.
There's been a lot of investment, and you see a lot of airports across the country, from San
Sure.
Diego to LAX to San Francisco and Portland and Seattle on the West Coast,
Yeah.
St. Louis, Chicago in the mid, New York City, obviously Dulles, JFK. There's a lot of work in aviation, but it's an interesting industry in the way that it's been changing. And a
Hmm.
lot of it, well, I'm sure we'll go into this as we talk
Yeah.
further. It's really about the development of technology and how does it
Hmm.
infiltrate into the industry, and how does it come back down to the architects.
Yeah.
So aviation is a very interesting part of what we do, and frankly, one of the earliest projects that HOK did were the Lambert Field domes, the original domes that became St. Louis Airport in 1956. One
Wow.
of the earliest projects of HOK. So it's really one of the genesis projects of this company.
Awesome. Amazing. Okay, great. Well, the podcast is all about diving into different sectors, headlines, talking about the moments that different real estate sectors are having. So, surely architecture and design in each of the respective areas that you work in has gone through a lot of change. Talk to me about some of that evolution over the last few years and what's top of mind for you now.
The last few years, as you know, it's been pretty epic, not only in the
Yeah.
US, but around the world.
Sure.
And I would say San Francisco, when I landed in 2022,
Okay.
wow, it was a scary place. You go
Mm.
downtown, there was nothing there. You
Wow.
go into the train in the morning and it was empty.
Okay.
Fast forward 4 years later and you can't find a seat. San Francisco was making headlines 4 years ago about tech is leaving, the city is
Yeah.
dying, crime is taking over. but in the last few years, and especially with the new mayor, Daniel Lurie, that came in,
Mhm.
and obviously with the help of the AI revolution, the city has really come into its own. There's a lot of new development. Vacancy rates, which were at historic lows, have been hitting year on year record highs in terms of tenancy.
Mm. Mhm.
So work has gotten really busy, and I think that's what's literally what's hitting the last few years in terms of what's been happening 2022 to 2026. It's really, I think it's about recovery across the world and across the nation, and especially in our industry. And
Yeah.
so certain sectors like commercial is still pretty much dying or dead. But you do see now new projects starting to come out of the ground and in discussion across not only San Francisco, but across the cities.
Yeah.
So it's a really interesting time where, we were all pretty much clobbered and we were down for the count. And I mean, that's a kind of a corny cliche, but it really did seem that way. And it's nice to
Yeah.
see the industry back on its feet and doing well, I think, not
Yeah.
commercial sector, but other sectors.
Yeah.
Uh,
What
I
are some
think
of
that
the sectors you think are doing well versus not so well? Yeah. Maybe
right,
you're
so
gonna
that's
get
what I
there.
was gonna say, like, I
Yeah.
think, obviously, aviation is doing well.
Mhm.
Certain technology sectors, like data centers, are doing quite well. Um, not so much in universities and academic work, but I would say healthcare is very robust. Aviation, as I just said. So you really have to have that diverse portfolio to experience that growth. I think sports is what we are known for, HOK, and that is doing well.
Interesting.
Um,
Okay.
yeah,
Like major stadiums or entertainment centers or
I would say
what
both.
kind
I
of
mean,
work?
look at the Sphere in Las Vegas.
Okay.
New
Yeah.
venues like that using new technology. HOK right now, I think we have two or three football stadiums that are going to be taking part in the World Cup in the U.S.
Wow.
I think HOK
Exciting.
Sports, we probably have the largest uh, portfolio of soccer or football stadiums in the US right now. New York
Oh,
City,
very
Etihad,
cool.
St. Louis Energizer Park, and so on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, I mean, so you have such a diverse perspective. What would you say then that what are developers doing that they're getting it right and where are they getting it wrong?
So let me turn that question around just a little bit
Yeah,
because I
please.
think the developers right now, they can't do it alone. You really
Yeah.
need to be
Mhm.
holding hands with your cities and
Sure.
your
Yeah.
mayors.
Mhm.
And I was just referring to Mayor Lori. One of the things that he initiated was an incentive and specialized zone in San Francisco to make it easier for office conversion, those empty offices that are at
Okay.
historic highs, to turn them into residences.
Mhm.
And so
Mhm.
he's changing policies and letting go of certain taxes and fees that need to be paid to make that conversion possible. So there is a will, but the path has also to be made by the city to help the developers get to that realization. So I think that's helping. Um, what are developers doing well? I think what's one of the after effects of COVID is the idea that community is important, your neighbors are important. Seeing people and interaction is important. And so I think in a big way, a lot of the standard institutional truths about development, especially commercial, downtown, it has to be a storefront. Problem
Mhm.
is, storefronts are empty. There's nothing going in there. Outside should be. There's been talk about why couldn't they also be turned over to stoop residential? Because in essence, residential is what needs to be part of downtown cores to make them active. New York City, I was there 9/11. I was working down in
Mhm.
Wall Street,
Wow.
and really post 9/11, when all the bank headquarters had fled and gone to New Jersey and upstate New York and so on, the conversion of those empty offices to residentials, that has really helped shore up
Mhm.
downtown.
Mhm.
Um, so I think what they're doing right is understanding that, and understanding that the standard prototype of development should be more diverse, it should be more
Mhm.
inclusive, and they
Mhm.
really need to think about infrastructure. And I'm not talking about sewage and plumbing. I'm thinking about social infrastructure of schools, stores, residences, in addition to the commercial. I think that's what's nice
Yeah.
about it. Yeah.
Okay. Very
And what
interesting.
one thing that I want to point out in that one is if you look at sports stadiums, the development right now, what's really interesting, like if you go to Mercedes Stadium in Atlanta, there's a whole village that's grown up
Mm,
around
mhm,
it.
mhm,
So there's an urban center with residential and retail that leads up to the entrance going into the stadium. And
mhm.
so that's a really good example of using social infrastructure to really shore up your urban developments, whether
Yeah.
there is something there already or not.
Yeah, very interesting. Yeah, you're seeing a lot more of those pop up around sports and entertainment centers, sort of
Yeah.
creating their own community. Yeah, we've seen that here in Philadelphia as well. So tell me about how some of those factors and things that are going well translate into the decisions you all make in design. How do you balance, the design needs of today with the design needs of the future?
Oh, that's a good
Bit of a
question.
loaded question, I'm sure,
Yeah.
but
And that and that's a timeless question because it's all
yeah.
about the question, how do you stay timeless?
Mhm.
And I think right now, between the social pressures that we've had to go through and deal with,
Yeah.
and now the other pressure that we feel in the industry is technology
Mhm.
and AI in a big way. And the curve is really incredible how steep it's getting so quickly.
Yeah.
It's really starting to change how we think about the way we work.
Mhm. Mhm.
I think AI, in a way, looks at um, systems that we would normally hand over to engineers and consultants, but because we have the ability to use that information using AI adaptive resources, we think differently, we design differently. I can go a little deeper into that. That might be a little
Sure,
too deep.
yeah, I mean, AI is such a hot topic. I'd love to know more about how that's
So,
changed how the
for
way
instance,
you
when
all
we do our
operate.
stadiums, we have something
Yeah,
called an HOK Scrum,
okay,
which is based on the rugby term, but it's a adaptive program, AI adaptive program, where it's live in front of the client. You can design a bowl. We call it the stadium bowl, and you can
okay,
start to look at immediately live angles and viewpoints, and also while you're doing that, the amount of tonnage of steel and concrete that it goes to look at that design. So literally, you're shaping the bowl of the stadium from the front seat to the back row and way up at the top, and
goodness.
then you start to see what is my viewpoint there, what is the value of that seat to the owner, and
Wow,
then conversely at the same time, how much steel more or less would that design incur based on the other options. So things that would take literally weeks and weeks and weeks now
oh my
takes
gosh, yeah,
literally hours and minutes.
yeah, yeah.
It's very scary to have that much power, I think.
Yeah,
Because, you tend to want to be more deliberate about how you
sure,
make decisions, but I think the what the AI tools gives us, and also our clients, is that knowledge right there in front of you. Um, Developers use this as well. When they do daylight studies,
mhm,
core layouts, a standard footprint with a column grid. Usually, it would take a few days to go through them, but you can put them into again an AI program and
yeah,
have them right at your fingertip.
very
Just
interesting.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, even here in what we do and guests that I've spoken to, we talk a lot about how AI has impacted operations and processes. It's really interesting to hear how you use it in design and development. And like you said, it's scary, but it's powerful. I mean, the narrative is out there so much about, oh, it's going to replace jobs and things like that. But I mean, it sounds like but it's adding so much value, right, to your relationships with developers and your ability to see things in a different lens. Is that accurate?
That is accurate. But
Yeah.
no, but let me make one correction
Yeah, yeah.
from my point of view. Um, I don't think it's taking away jobs from architects. I think it's asking architects to think differently and also engineers, I would say. So, the advent of architects historically, we were about architecture really means master craftsman or carpenter. And tech comes from the word tectonic and technical issues. And so the idea of architecture was really about art and technology, but it's really about 19th century, and then thereafter, the construction and arts really sort of split. And so then it became more about architects learning how to draw a building to see how it gets constructed. And then we would leave the technical parts to our consultants, our engineers. But I think what's happening now is it's forcing architects to be more broad-handed and more knowledgeable across the board. So we're
Okay.
not, so we're looking at systems of mechanical systems, building systems, even envelope and materials that we're looking at. I mean, the idea of timelessness, if I, I can go back to that question again,
Yeah, yeah.
it's really about, so now what we when we design a building, we don't just look at a building from top to bottom, inside to out. We actually now break it down. So you have the shell of the building, which is a structure, the floor plates and the envelope, the things that
Mhm.
are just going to be there for a long time.
Yeah.
And then the soft part, which is the inside, the layouts and the divisions and the inside the buildings, and how you separate one from the other. So for instance, floor to floor, we will want to have 13, 15-foot ceilings, because in 10 years that can be adapted to residential, it can be adapted to office, it can be adapted to life science, as an example. Mechanical cores that would usually go inside the building and take up all that space, we
Mhm.
would say, let's put them at the outside of the building and make the inside of the tower, 30-story tower, as what we call an open field. So it can be much ultimate flexibility in terms of use.
Hmm. Okay.
So I think the idea of designing towards being timeless has to do more with how do you design to create the least resistance to change and be
Yeah.
ultimately most flexible in your design.
Yeah.
And I'm
Yeah.
not even talking about what the building looks like. I'm just talking about the
Yeah.
system,
Yeah.
how it breathes, how it stands up, how it
How it works,
engages
yeah.
itself.
Okay. All right, very cool. I wanna get into your international background and experiences and sort of what you've seen there versus the US and how that's influenced some of your work. Talk to me more about that.
I think the biggest, and I love that question, because it really speaks to me. Because I think my observation has to do with the first and foremost was about sustainability and resilience coming from East Asia. I mean, South Korea is no slack in terms of first world development and development and
Mm,
technology. But
mhm,
when you come to the US, the idea of sustainability and resilience is a real thing.
mhm.
Clients really care about it. HOK, that is one of our biggest pillars of strength in
Okay.
terms of what we are interested in and what
Mhm.
we want to do with our buildings. That it's about being a good global citizen and really treating the earth in a way that we want it to be there for our kids. I think with Asia, and perhaps it has to do with the development. And when I say Asia, I don't want to put a broad stroke. Just let me just focus it on South Korea, where I was for
Sure.
20 years.
Mhm.
It was really one of those check marks. Can we do lead? Can we do lead silver, lead? And then it was in the beginning years, 15 years ago, it was about bringing consultants in from New York who had that experience and training locals. But it was
Mhm.
really more, oh, this is the world trend is what's happening. Can we do it without really understanding the value? And but I think when you come to and I think it has to do with the fact that the clients feel like they have to, not because they want to. Whereas
Yeah.
when you come to the US right now, it's more than clear that the clients, that's really something that they're very interested in.
Okay.
That's an interesting thing. Things like neurodiversity, neurodiverse designs,
Mhm.
that's an important issue. Kay Sargent, one of our principals, and wrote a book on neurodiverse spaces, workspaces. That's something that clients are really clinging onto in terms of creating an interior space, an environment that really appeals to all kinds of people.
Mm, mhm.
Whereas before, that was just not there. That was not in our
Yeah.
thinking.
Yeah.
That does not play itself very well in Asia. And
Okay.
I think it has to do with the urgency to build, whereas
Mhm.
in the US, it's much more relaxed in terms of let's really think about what we want to do in
More
terms of design.
methodical. Mhm.
I
Okay.
think so. I would say the first answer would be about
Yeah.
sustainability and
Yeah.
things like neurodiverse designs that go beyond architecture and design with a capital A and a capital D.
Okay. All right. Well, we've hit on a lot of the other topics I wanted to talk about, which was technology, sustainability, a bit of adaptive reuse. Is there anything in those areas we haven't touched on that's really top of mind for you now?
I do, yeah, there is one, and this is something that goes to the core, one of the core beliefs that I have as an architect, which is education.
Okay. Yeah.
So I sit on, I go to universities because I've been teaching also for 15 years.
Okay.
And just recently, I also was on University of Cal Berkeley's thesis reviews. And what's interesting there, and this goes to back to your earlier question about differences, the idea of social issues in design is a big thing in schools. Traditionally, when I grew up, back when the dinosaurs roamed, it was really about how beautiful were the buildings, what are the
Yeah.
proportions. Maybe
Sure.
you would have a class and structures, but now it really is a much more holistic idea of design, from the city to, the 5-minute city, 15-minute city, the walkability,
Okay.
the buildings that can be adapted and be flexible. So everything is about this, what I call, it's about twitching or vibrating. Nothing is institutionally solid. Everything wavers, and there's all these nuances that flickers back and forth from
Mhm.
one to the other. And when I
Yeah.
was at the reviews for this master's thesis reviews, it really reminded me of that, about the state of architecture and building in the U.S. And it's really about, I find that architecture industry has really gone closer to society and really embracing societal issues into architecture.
Okay.
So it's gotten less arrogant, and the capital A has gotten a little bit more A, and it's really become more about the people. That I
I love
find to
that.
be very interesting in terms
Yeah.
of the evolution of architecture, from when I was here 20 years ago and when I
Yeah.
came back 4 years ago.
I love that. I mean, that's a good sign. That's a positive
It
note.
is.
I guess on a less I mean, are there any risks or challenges that you're, really concerned about or watching closely over the next year that could threaten any of those things or, the architecture or
I'm
design
gonna
work that
sound like
you're
a
doing?
Britney, I'm gonna sound like a broken record, but it
Yeah.
really, I'm gonna go back to AI, because
Mhm. Yeah.
I was talking about the infiltration of AI in terms of building systems and evaluation, and assessment. But lately, what we've been doing at HOK is really looking at the use of AI in terms of how we create and design.
Yeah.
Because that goes to what you were saying before about our losing jobs, architects in their role. I mean, ultimately, we're like writers. We create, we problem
Mhm.
solve.
Mhm. Yep.
I guess you can put it into an algorithm, but then it becomes another, mechanistic thing in a factory line. So how do you maintain creativity? How do you maintain originality of and the hand of the person by
Mhm.
using that AI? And that's the part that, honestly, when I first came, I thought, wow, this is so, science fiction-ish. But
Yeah.
the more, and I'm one of these people that I'm probably the most anti-technological person you can
Okay.
probably meet. Um, I mean, really. So the fact that I'm saying I'm talking about AI in that way only because it's been coming into my work, into the way I do the designs and the process that we go in ways that have really surprised me, and I did
Okay.
not
That's
expect.
cool.
So some of my colleagues have really run into the fire. I've been running away from the fire, but it's still chasing me down. So I know this is not going to go away, and so I
Yeah.
think the big challenge is going to be for a creative science like architecture, how do you make it worthwhile and also a positive net in the end, as opposed to uh, a struggle between the creativity and technology? Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. Something we grapple with a lot here too at our agency. So I understand that thought process. All right, Peter, this was really interesting. We talked about a lot of different things. I want to give you the opportunity. I always ask my guests if they could write a headline for their space, what it would look like. So if you were to see um, an article out there about architecture, design, what would it say?
I think the headline would be something like "The Architect Goes Back to the Stone Ages." And it really talks about
Yeah.
the fact that if you look at the palaces across Asia and Europe,
Mhm.
the word architect didn't exist. It was about a builder, a craftsman, a carpenter. Architecture is a fairly new word.
Okay.
And I think the advent of technology is forcing architects to really retreat back to where we came from in terms of just primal existence and creating something for our environment. So that's what I would say. And that's the irony, right? The technology is making us really
Yeah.
go back a few thousand years. But I think the more I think about the state of the world in 2026,
Mhm.
scary as it is, I do see light in it, and I think it could be very positive.
Amazing. I love that. Well, thank you so much for your time today, Peter. This was great. I appreciate it.
Great, thank you. I loved it as well.
This podcast is a production of Gregory. If you enjoyed our discussion, please subscribe wherever you get your podcasts